Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians, February 7, 2025 Board Meeting. This meeting is taking place at the Department of Consumer Affairs Evergreen Building located at 2005 Evergreen Street, room 1150 in Sacramento, California. My name is Carol Mountain. I'm the Board President. I would like to call this meeting to order at 10 o'clock exactly. First, some housekeeping information on how this meeting will be conducted. This meeting is being held in person. If we need a motion, I will call for a motion, a second, and open for public comment prior to taking a roll call vote for each motion. Members, for the record, please state your name prior to making your motion or when seconding a motion. We will take public comment on each agenda item. Members of the public who request to speak will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and you'll be notified when you have 30 seconds remaining. Your name is not necessary, but please indicate how you would like us to identify you. For the sake of efficiency, the executive officer may respond direct public comment or defer to the appropriate staff person or counsel as appropriate. For any questions directed to board members, I will either answer the questions or direct it to board members as appropriate. We will now do an alphabetical roll call to establish quorum. Board members, when your name is called, please introduce yourself and give a brief description of your role with the board. Alita Carpenter.
Here, I'm a public member.
John Durking.
Morning, John Deerking, public member.
Gloria Gregorio Guzman.
I'm a member of the board, LVN.
Abraham Hill.
Abraham Hill, psychiatric technician, governor appointed.
Leslie Moore.
Leslie Moore, governor appointee.
And I'm Carol Mountain. I'm the education member. Based on the roll call, we have a quorum. Agenda item 2 will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Hill, will you please lead us? Ms. Yamaguchi, will you please introduce the board staff and council?
I would be very happy to. Good morning, everybody. Elaine Yamaguchi, Executive Officer. With us today from the BVNPT staff, our AEO, Mark Ito. From the Enforcement Division, we've got our Division Chief, Antoinette Wood, and our Manager, Jay Prouty. From our Special Investigators Unit, our Supervising Special Investigator, Stacy Higashi. From licensing, we have our manager, Shelley Brown, and our supervisor, Mike Hill. Education, this is the long group. Got our SNEC, Judith Cloud, our NECs, Roberta Thompson, Bridget Barrett, Cindy Fairchild, Jessica Gomez, and online, I believe, our newest NEC, Clarissa Swanson. Welcome, Clarissa. Our education analysts, Geraldine Marcino, Nicholas Gonzalez, and not last but not least, people who get this meeting rolling, our admin staff, Jeff Weiler and Nikki Brady. At this point, I believe most people know we have a new general counsel, and I would like to introduce her, Ileana Butu. Seeing her.
Good morning, everyone.
We will now move on to item number 4, board officer elections. Ms. Yamaguchi.
Great, thank you so much. It is tradition and actually in our practice act that the first meeting of every calendar year, the board will elect its new officers. By the way, with the sunset bill that was approved and is now in effect, the board also has the option to make 2-year elections and appointments. So, but with that, As you know, we've got a board chair, a board vice chair. And I will open the floor for nominations for board chair.
Point of order, should we ratify a 2-year term at this point?
That's a good question, since it's in code.
I have to double check, but does the code say that we can or that we have to?
Can.
Oh, well then, yeah, we should ratify it, or the board should.
Case the motion and
I would so move that the executive office positions for the BVNPT henceforth be 2 years terms,
are you looking for a shall or a may?
shall.
There's any questions or comments from the board members? Any public comment? Seeing none. In that case, all those in support of the motion?
I'm sorry, was that seconded?
Yeah.
This is the moderator. I apologize to interrupt there. When you requested public comment, were you requesting from WebEx as well or in the room first?
In the room first, thank you.
Okay. And I can open up for public comment via WebEx. This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions will be on the screen here shortly. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square where it says Q&A and type the word comment and send it to all panelists. If you are calling in from a phone, press *3 from your phone to raise your virtual hand. There are no public comment requests. Thank you. I'll close the Q&A.
Thank you very much. With that, is there any opposition to approval? Hearing none. Do I need a roll call vote? May I do a roll call vote then, please? All those in favor, board members, Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Deerking,
Yes.
Ms. Guzman,
Yes.
Dr. Mountain? Yes. Mr. Hill
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Now with that, then, I would like to open the floor for nominations for board chair.
I would nominate, John Deerking would nominate Dr. Carol, board president for the,
Alita Carpenter, second.
That motion's moved and seconded. Dr. Mountain, do you accept that nomination? Are there any other nominations or any questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none. Is it in order to ask for public comment on elections? Okay. Is there any public comment in the room? Not seeing any. Moderator, could you ask on the web?
Yes, this is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions will be on your screen shortly. If you would like to participate and you're logged in, you can raise your hand by pressing the outline of a hand, typically bottom center of your WebEx screen, or you can click the Q&A icon, bottom right corner. If you're calling in from a phone, *3 to raise your virtual hand. At this time, I see no request for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, thank you very much. Or questions? Chair for 2. Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Guzman,
Yes.
Mr. Deerking,
yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes by 5. You're reappointed. At this point then, without objection, we will move on to electing our vice chair for the 2-year term. And
I would like to nominate Mr. Abraham Hill for vice president.
I second.
Okay, that was moved by Dr. Mountain, seconded by Mr. Deerking. Mr. Hill, do you accept that?
Yes, I do.
Are there any other nominations? All right, any questions or comments from the board? Great. Any comments or questions from the audience here? Okay, anything online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. Instructions on the screen. Press *3 from your phone to raise your hand or the outline of a hand if you're logged in. No request. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, thank you very much. All right, with that, I will call the roll. If you support the nomination of Mr. Hill, please signify by an affirmative. Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Ms. Guzman,
Yes.
Mr. Deerking,
Yes.
Dr. Mountain,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
and Mr. Hill.
I abstain.
Thank you. All right, well then, with a unanimous vote, we now have our executive committee for the next 2 years appointed. Thank you all very much. And I think that's great. And I will turn it back over to the chair.
Before we move on to agenda item number 5, I would just like to take this moment and thank Mr. Durking for his service as vice president and tell him how much the board appreciates his expertise and knowledge and all that he's brought and how much you're going to be sincerely missed.
Absolutely.
All right, we will move on to agenda item 5, acceptance of the minutes from the November 22, 2024 board meeting.
If there are no errors or omissions, I would move the minutes of the November 22nd board meeting.
Alicia Carpenter, I would second that motion.
Any board discussion or questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment in the room? Seeing none, is there any public comment online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. Instructions are on the screen. If you're calling in, *3 to raise your virtual hand. If you're logged in, you can click on the outline of a hand or click on the Q&A and type comment. There are no requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please. I will do a roll call and establish who's in favor, opposed, or abstains. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
And I'm Carol Mountain. I vote yes. It is the motion to approve the November 22, 2024 minutes carries by a vote of 6. We will now move on to agenda item 6, fiscal and budgets update. Mr. Ito.
Good morning, board members. Mark Ito, Assistant Executive Officer for the board. First, I want to congratulate Dr. Mountain and Mr. Hill on your appointment. And also, John, you will be greatly missed. It was awesome working with you. All right, so I'm excited to do this budget update today. There's 3 documents you have in front of you. One is the expenditure projections, which is the spreadsheet that has all the color on it right here. We have our revenue projections as well, and our fund condition, which pretty much sums up the first 2 documents. So last board meeting, I explained how the budget was built. I'll briefly go over it with some updates of what's going on with the board. So the department and the state, we participate in what's called incremental budgeting, meaning we don't start at 0. We make incremental changes to the budget based on things like executive orders, budget letters, such as budget letter 2420 was the vacancy drill where the state aimed at eliminating 10,000 vacant positions for the state, and budget letter 2424 which is the government efficiency drill where it was going to cut the budgets of state entities. I will say that the department and the budget office did a great job working with our Department of Finance to kind of lower those to a reasonable amount for the board, which was great for us. And we were able to give up a few positions without affecting our operational needs, and our budget was cut as well. We were historically saving about $1.5 million, which is significantly less now, but we're working at it to figure it out. So there are some budget drills, like I said, where we build the budget. There's our budget change proposals, which we're kind of taking a look at now to kind of figure out what we need in order to meet our operational needs. If we need more staff or funding, that's something we're going to take a look at, and me and Elaine are going to discuss together and with our staff. There's employee compensation, which is if the unions give staff raises, those get impacted in our budget, and we'll get an increase, and retirement if those change as well. So that's pretty much how the budget's built in a nutshell. So now let's get to the documents here. The first one is our expenditure projections. Is this document here? So this document shows our prior year budget, what we spent prior year, what our current year budget is, how much we spent already as of fiscal month 5, and what our projections are for the end of this fiscal year. And if you read top to bottom over there in the line items, that is all the line items of our budget. I will say that we're not saving as much as we were, and part of that is because we had our budget change proposal a couple of years ago, where we, for AB 3255, which is the program approval process for our education division, we got 3 staff because of that. Those 2 staff and the funding for the 3 staff and the funding fell off this fiscal year. It was a 2-year limited term. So there was a $500,000 reduction in our budget because of that. And what we ended up doing is we couldn't lose those staff just based on operational needs for our education division. So what we did is we reclassified 3 positions from our licensing unit into those positions, and those were lower level pay positions. So not only did we lose $500,000, we reclassified positions in order to keep those positions, which increased our expenditures, which is a large reason of why our savings is down to $35,000 right now. However, we are doing things and finding savings. We do have vacant positions. One thing that is happening is we've historically, when an applicant or licensee pays online and uses a credit card, we've been absorbing those costs. As of March, at the next Breeze release, we are going to that 2.3% charge is going to be charged to the applicants and licensees, which I've done some math and some estimates, and from March to the end of the fiscal year, it will save us about $100,000. And then over the longevity of an entire fiscal year, we're probably looking at $300,000 savings. We can kind of add that to our version as well. One other thing we're doing is there is a mechanism to increase your Attorney General and Office of Administrative Hearings budget during the current year if you're overspending those line items. That's something that we're looking into. So that's going to be more savings we're going to end up getting for this fiscal year. So I think we'll get through the year and then have to assess what our ongoing budget looks like, and that's part of that budget change proposal process I spoke about earlier. So it's something I could speak on it at the next meeting, but I think we're going to be fine for this fiscal year. It is getting close, but there is some mechanisms for us to get through the year, which I'm excited about. All right, so moving on to the next document, we have our revenue projections. I'll make this really brief here. So for this fiscal year, we anticipated bringing in about $25 million, a little different. Our projections at year end is about $24.7 million, which is a little under, but not much at all. So that leads me to our fund condition, which kind of wraps up these 2 documents here. So the fund condition reads left to right and top to bottom. Left to right is the fiscal years. It starts in fiscal year 23-24 all the way through 27, 28, with 23, 24 being actual numbers from last fiscal year and 24, 25 being our current year with our projections. And then everything to the right of that is ongoing years moving forward. And top to bottom, there's really 4 sections. It's our beginning balance, our revenue we bring in, our expenditures, and then our fund balance and months in reserve. So if you look at our budget, we are what's called structurally imbalanced. We bring in more money than we're spending. So if you look at our current year under 24, 25, it shows that $24.7 million I just spoke about. But if you go down to the section below that, our total expenditures is $19.1 million. So we are bringing in approximately $5 million more than we're actually spending. It's something that we're looking at because ideally you would be structurally balanced. So we have to look into a fee audit at some point because our months in reserve are increasing at about 2 or 3 months every year. So that's something we will look at. And for the months in reserve, a kind of an easy way to look at that is if you stop bringing in any money at this point, the months in reserve is how many months we can sustain our current operations prior to becoming insolvent. So that's something we are looking at. So we are very healthy. If you look at our fund, our months in reserve are growing. The only issue and thing that we're looking at and trying to resolve and alleviate is our appropriation and what our actual savings is every fiscal year. So we have a lot of money in the bank, but it's just a matter of getting through the fiscal year, kind of considering really what happened with the 2-year limited terms falling off and us needing to keep those positions, which was a need on our end. So now we're taking a look at that, and we're gonna look to see what we can do moving forward to get back to having a healthy savings every year. It's something that we are I don't want to say concerned about, but we're keeping a closer eye on for sure, because we were historically saving about 1.5 million, but we're down a lot lower than that, but not really, I think, in a fear of blowing our budget at this point. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll take them now.
Any board discussion or questions?
Just a comment. Wonderful work.
Awesome. Thank you.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
The Board of Registered Nursing is giving relief to those nurses that live in the Los Angeles area. Are we going to be able to do something like that?
Yeah, we actually are doing that. That is a department-wide venture they're doing. So it is already on in breeze for us. My licensing manager's done a great job putting that all together for us on her end. We've sent it out to our listserv so our licensees are aware, and we're keeping track of it just to make sure. So what it does is it defers the license renewal payment for a year, but there is still the option, if you did want to pay it, you could pay. There's a way for us to kind of go around and make that happen as well.
That's very kind.
Yep.
I'm so glad we're doing that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, have a great rest of the day.
Is there, we have to wait for public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? You want to run away. Seeing no public comment, is there public comment online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions will be on the screen here shortly. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type the word comment. If you are calling in, you can press *3 from your phone to raise your virtual hand. No requests at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
I would. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Ito. We will now move to the Education Division report. Dr. McLeod.
I can see it. Good morning. Dr. Judith McLeod, I'm the supervising nursing education consultant. Sure you can. How's that? Better? Okay. We are pleased to let you know that we do have a new nursing education consultant Dr. Clarissa Swanson, who is online this morning. We figured that this is her first week. She started on Monday. We figured coming to a board meeting at the end of the first week was a little much. So she will be at the May board meeting for everyone to meet. She's very delightful and we're very happy to have her. We do have a position still open, so we're hoping to get that filled at some point soon. The nursing education consultants were busy in the last quarter and they did 13 visits, and we are going to start telling you when we're doing remote visits as well, because they're really important. And we had 3 remote visits as well. So they were pretty busy. We're picking up again as the beginning of the year. I expect that to be many more visits than 13 coming up in the next quarter. So we now have 47 schools that have been on our list for new schools. We have 12 schools that are in process. We have been approving people quite a bit. We're kind of happy about that. We do have now a PT school on the list. We're very happy about that. So they're in the midst of the proposed program process. So we're hoping that they get approved soon. So it's coming along. We are busy. We are letting you know that the statistical measures that you'll see coming up in the May meeting will look a little bit different than the ones that looked for this meeting. We are updating our statistical measures so that we can get a better and more accurate picture of what the nursing education consultants and office staff are doing, so that you can see a little bit more of what they're doing. So we're breaking visits down to things like visits that are done for continuing approval, visits that are done for complaints, those kinds of things. We want you to be able to see the remote visits that are being done, and that kind of stuff. So you'll be seeing some differences on the statistics. So if you have questions at the May meeting about those, we're more than happy to, explain some of the difference that are going to be there. We are anticipating that with Cite and Find, there'll be a lot more information that will be needed. So we're also going to be showing you the kinds of violations that we're seeing as well. We're still working on regulation changes. We're working on updating forms, and we're starting to working on updating the website as well. So that's something that's happening. We're also working quite a bit with IV blood withdrawal programs, because that's an update we needed to do. So that's coming as well. We are working with Opus to do those meetings that had related to the psychiatric technician. We're real excited by how those meetings are going. There's a meeting in December, 2 meetings in January, and our subject matter experts have been excellent and have been very enthusiastic about coming. They've done a lot of work. Our occupational analysis is getting ready to be distributed in March. We are putting in an additional question that's been requested by our board members. So about the PT title, so that will be coming as well. So it's been an excellent time for us in the education division, very busy. And we're really pleased to be able to tell you all the exciting things we're doing. If you have any questions about the report, I'm more than happy to answer them.
No, but that was an excellent report. I mean, so many good things happening. And hopefully with Cite and Find, we'll just see our number of deficiencies go right down.
We're hoping.
Fingers crossed. Any questions from the board? Any public comment or questions from the audience, the floor? Seeing none, is there any public comment online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. The instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on, and you're calling in, *3 to raise your virtual hand. If you're logged in, press on the outline of a hand and click on the Q&A and type the word comment. I do see Dr. Andrew Sanchez. You have your hand up. I'm going to send a request to unmute your microphone, and I'm going to set my timer to 3 minutes. Give me just a moment here. Dr. Sanchez, you are unmuted. Or
I'm just quickly wanted to find out where will the new psychiatric technician program be and who is proposing for one? Thank you.
The new psychiatric technician is going to be at the College of the Redwoods.
this is the moderator. There are no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Please. And I believe next we should review ratification approval of executive officer program decisions for the period of October 15, 2024 to December 10th, 2024. Can I have a motion and a second? Thank you.
Abraham Hill, a second.
Thank you. Any board discussion or questions? The information was in your packet. Seeing none, is there any public comment in the room? Seeing none, is there any public comment online?
This is the moderator. Q&A is open. Instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square or raise the hand by clicking on the outline of a hand. If you're calling in, *3 to raise your virtual hand. No requests at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
I would, thank you so much. And we will do a roll call, establish who's in favor, opposed, or abstains. Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Durkin,
Yes.
Ms. Guzman,
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
And I'm Carol Mountain. I vote yes. That motion carries by a vote of 6. We will now move on to B, request to admit students. Dr. Thompson.
Good morning. Dr. Roberta Thompson, requesting a request from Summit College, San Bernardino, to admit 30 students on February 24th. This would be an additional class. I recommend that they be given this additional class.
Dr. Thompson, is there any new or additional information to add to your report?
Yes, the director has resigned. Alicia Lamore has resigned. She's going to actually an RN program. And Louis Taunt is the assistant director. He's been doing a fine job assisting her, and he will be actively administering the program until the new director starts. They have identified a new director who will start on the 22nd. So 2 days before this class, they will have a new director. But I think they're in good hands. They also have Jessica Gilliam, who is an administrative person who is assigned to nursing program. That's her big responsibility now. And so she keeps a pretty close watch and calls me when there's anything going on. So they have really been doing a lot to make improvements over the last year.
Excellent. Is there any comment from representatives of the program?
They may be
Wait,
online.
we have to have I think we have to have a motion first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I have a motion to approve the Summit College San Bernardino Nursing Education Program report and adopt the NEC recommendations in regard to a request to admit students, and a second?
John Deerkin would so move.
Thank you.
Alita Carpenter, second.
Thank you. Is there any comment from representatives of the program? I think they're probably online.
They would be online if they are.
This is the moderator. Would you like me to open the Q&A? Or call on hands? I see a hand that is raised. Would you like me to call on that hand?
Yes.
Okay, Jessica Gulen is, Board President, is the time frame applicable here as well, the 3 minutes, or no?
No, if it's
Okay.
a representative from Summit College, they can speak.
Okay. Jessica Gulen, I've sent a request to unmute your microphone.
I just wanted to say thank you so much to Dr. Thompson for recognizing the hard work that Summit College has been coming along the way to ensure that the VN program is where it needs to be today. So we are so grateful and thank you for the support and the direction, the mentoring for our program to be at today's success. And thank you to Dr. Thompson, to Faye, and to Dr. McLeod. But truly, thank you for the recognition.
Thank you so much for your comments. Is there any board discussion or questions? Any additional public comment in the room? Seeing none, any additional public comment online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. Instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the outline of a hand or click the Q&A and type the word comment. If you're calling in, *3 from your phone to raise your virtual hand. No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
I would. Thank you so much. I will do a roll call and establish who's in favor, opposed, or abstains. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
And I'm Carol Mott.
This is the moderator. Sorry, the hearing room got muted. If we can unmute the hearing room. I sent a request to unmute the hearing room.
Well, I have submitted my report for Integrity College of Health Vocational Nursing Program, recommending that their provisional approval be removed and be returned to full approval and be allowed to admit the class in May as they requested. And I would be happy to answer any questions you have regarding that recommendation.
Is there any new or additional information to your report?
Yes, there is. So no site visit was done, as is customary, prior to releasing provisional approval. Integrity College was one of the few vocational nurses directly impacted by the LA fires, specifically the Seton fire, I believe. Jessica Gomez and myself were in the area, poised to make the site visit, and our car was turned around by blockades less than half a mile from the campus, at which point the site visit was tabled. Integrity College, in particular, Miss Alice Thompson, has been a very responsive PD program director this past year. All reports requested by the NEC has been turned in complete and final form and well before the time indicated on our report, along with the fact that they have stable and compliant pass rates. The NEC will continue to review and work with the program to address any issues. Please let me know if you require further clarification or additional information.
Thank you so much. Is there any additional comment from? And I have a motion to approve the Integrity College of Health Vocational Nursing Program report and adopt the NEC recommendations regarding the consideration of placement on provisional approval, and a second.
John Deerking would so move.
Thank you.
Abraham Hill, second.
Thank you. Is there any comment from representatives of the program? And will they be online?
I think they're here.
Oh, they're here. Awesome. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Alice Sorrell Thompson, the Director of Nursing for Integrity College of Health. With me is Dr. Michelle Welsh, our Senior Vice President for Nursing of Legacy Education. We are honored to be able to be here today. We are grateful for this experience. It has made our program stronger. I have had wonderful interactions with all of the NECs, especially Ms. Bridget here, that has really helped us grow and tighten our things up. We look forward to going forward, even in the condition that Altadena happens to be in right now, particularly because of the condition that Altadena is in right now. Programs such as Integrity are needed. We work shoulder to shoulder with our community. And I am grateful that we will be able to continue that mission. Thank you.
Thank you. And were you affected by the fire?
We were actually 4 blocks away from it. We didn't lose much time at all. But yes, the National Guard was in our backyard. And we didn't have any structural damage to the campus at all. But we've got significant, and everybody has seen those pictures.
Yeah.
That stuff starts 4 blocks behind us. And it did impact our student body. We've had people that have been displaced. We had a student that lost her grandmother because of this. It'll be devastation that I think the state will be recovering from for years, but particularly that community. Integrity has sat in that community since 2007. And I am grateful that we're still there because they turn to who they know us. Know us. And we continue to provide the support that we can to the.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Is there any board discussion or further questions? Is there any public comment in the room? Seeing none, is there any public comment online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. The instructions are on the screen. If you're logged in and would like to participate, click on the question mark, type the word comment in the text field, send it to all panelists, or you can raise your hand by clicking on the outline of a hand. Those who are calling in, *3 to raise your virtual hand. No requests at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
I would, thank you. And I will do a roll call and establish who's in favor, opposed, or abstains. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durkee?
Yes.
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
And I'm Carol Mountain. I also vote yes. That motion carries by a vote of 6. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
will now move on to Cypress College Psychiatric Technician Program. Ms. Davia? She's online. Okay. Do I have the moderator open that up?
Good morning, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes. Excellent.
Wonderful. So good morning again, and I've submitted my report for Cypress College with a request for removal from provisional approval and return to full continued program approval. And my recommendation is to approve the request to grant that continued full approval for a 4-year period, beginning with February 3rd, 2025, and issue that certificate accordingly. I did go out and make a site visit virtually, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have about my report.
Ms. Davia, is there any new or additional information that you'd like to share?
No, I do not have any new or additional information to add to my report.
Excellent. Can I have a motion to approve the Cypress College Psychiatric Technician Program report and adopt the NEC recommendations regarding the consideration of placement on provisional approval, and a second?
John Deerkin will so move.
Abraham Hill, second.
Thank you. Is there any comment from representatives of the program? Ms. Davia, would they be online?
I believe so, yes.
This is the moderator. I have Cynthia Costa. I'm going to send a request to unmute your line.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Mountain, Dr. McLeod, and respected board members. Good morning. I wanted to take this moment to say thank you to our NEC, Tara. Thank you so much for your guidance and your patience in answering all our questions in this newly appointed position that I have. You have been our program savior. I can't thank you enough. Also like to shout out to and say thank you to Jaime Ramos, who so elegantly ran our Cypress College Psych Tech program for 16 years with such grace. It's been such a pleasure to follow in your footsteps. Thank you to my other team members if they're here. We've all worked so hard to get our program back on track. We've definitely grown stronger as a team and as a program. And lastly, a special thanks to my team member, Kim. I love you. Words cannot express how thankful I am to have you by my side. Your love, your compassion for our program, your teaching, your compassion for our students, it's such a huge blessing for our program. Thank you again, Tara, for everything you've done, and we will not let you down and continue to work hard to keep our program on this positive path.
Excellent, thank you. Is there any comment from, is there any board discussion or questions?
Just one comment. This program has an outstanding pass rate
Yeah.
on the capital exam.
Is there any public comment in the room?
This is the moderator. I believe I have Jamie Ramos from school representative. I'll send a request to unmute.
I think that person just spoke.
Cynthia Costa, and I have a Jamie.
Okay, open the next one.
President and board members, I just want to inform you the Psychiatric program has gone through challenging times for the last few years in traditional accreditation, but the program faculty took this challenge seriously, and under the guidance and professionalism of NEC Tara de Villa, the program has gone through renovation and change, and we believe that we set the foundation that will keep our program passing score within standards in the long future to come. So I'm thankful for the recommendation of NEC Tara de Villa, and thank her for her guidance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any further comment online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. Instructions will be are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark, type comment in the text field, send it to all panelists, or press on the outline of a hand. Those who are calling in from a phone, *3 to raise your virtual hand. No requests at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
I would, thank you. And I just want to make sure, is there any public comment in the room? Seeing none, I will do a roll call and establish who's in favor, opposed, or abstains. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
Carol Mountain, I also vote yes. That motion carries by a vote of 6. Thank you so much. We will now move on to agenda item 8, Executive Officer's Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pardon me. The written report, of course, is in your packet, and not much has changed since then, but I did want to open up for if there were any questions on that before I raise a few other points. No? Okay. So our the first item is, of course, our strategic plan update. As you know, the board did approve it unanimously in November. And since then, our team has met with our consultant teams, and we've put together our action plan. So we've gone through the strategic goals set by the board and kind of mapped out the fine tunes of what happens when. It's going to be kind of exciting. Alarmingly, a lot of them is in the first year and a half, but staff's very enthusiastic. And actually, I think we've already made progress on a number of the goals, so that's great. The second item, the transition to the nurses for license verification, that has taken effect. All the paperwork's in order, and I actually think the licensing division might comment further on that. Third, transaction fees. Mr. Ito had already commented on that, but I did want to add just a supplemental comment. And a lot of the boards within DCA have unfortunately made this decision as well right now. There are only a couple of boards now that I think their board made a specific action to continue to underwrite those fees. The last item, of course, pardon me, the Respiratory Care Board's upcoming board meeting whereby they will move to approve their regulatory language. This, of course, is the same language that our board has discussed and sent a letter about in the fall. Their meeting is in March and it is down in Temecula. Now, in as much as our proposed action or our interaction on this specific move, we have made our statement. We have provided written comment. But if the board should be interested or wanting me or somebody else to attend, whether or not to ask their questions or provide a statement, I'm more than happy to. And also because it is in Temecula, if any of the board members who are close to that would like to show up, I would welcome that tremendously. Great, see you there. But the last thing, of course, on the Respiratory Care Board work, since they are now moving off after that general rulemaking, they are now moving towards more specific rulemakings. So I think they, of course, published their annual rulemaking calendar, and it contains the proposals to, first off, create that carve out for the home health care community. And the second is to create a carve out for community services. So that hasn't been spelled out yet. It won't be for a while, but I do expect that because they've been working on this a long time, I do expect that they have at least a solid draft of language to start moving ahead. But it's going to be interesting. And of course, we've communicated this with our network of stakeholders as well. At this point, I would love to ask for questions or comments from the board or from the audience.
I would just like to say thank you to you for all your hard work with this whole thing with the Respiratory Care Board.
Absolutely.
A long haul, and you have just stayed true north. And thank you so much, Elaine, for your work. Appreciate it. Any other board questions? Any public comment in the room? Seeing none, any public comment online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen. If you are online and would like to participate, you can click on the question mark, type the word comment, send it to all panelists, or simply raise your hand by clicking on the outline of a hand. For those calling in, *3 from your phone to raise your virtual hand. No requests at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
I would, thank you.
And that's my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. B is the executive committee report. That was.
I'm sorry, was there a question here?
I'm sorry, come up forward.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going to go through one by one each one of your items.
That's my legend regs.
Well, I was talking about the distribution of naloxone in correctional facilities.
Oh, okay.
Because that is a concern. I'm Kobe Pizzotti with the California Association of Psychiatric Technicians. This has been an issue that dates back quite a few months, and it has certainly given our members concern as to what their liability is. As of right now, Corrections has stepped back and just basically authorized all inmates to have naloxone offered to them if they want it. Our concern is, do we have a liability as a licensed body, as a licensed psych tech, to give that to them? So from that aspect, we are very concerned about this. So as you guys go forward and have your conversations with Corrections, we hope that we can be included in that discussion as well, because we very much can care about our members and what their liabilities and exposure is here. So with that, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you for your comments. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzotti. We would be delighted. We have not scheduled a next meeting with the corrections healthcare folks, but I'm happy to send you a note to maybe your president. Okay. But just as an overview of the issue itself, the conversations we had with corrections were very positive, and I think Mr. Pizzotti said that they have just elected to make naloxone widely available to the inmates, however many kits they want, whenever they want. And I'm told that this has already saved a lot of lives. However, the CAPT folks have raised a really valid point. Is it safe for them as the staff, and is it within their scope?
Yes.
And so we do still want to, I think, have a larger conversation on that scope issue, because the LVNs as well. And our position so far has been that since this has been federal executive order, we've basically decided that, we don't have the wherewithal to oppose that. We do want to, of course, make certain that safeguards are made, that communication is made. And I think for certain, one of the things that the board might want to discuss in the future is whether or not they are liable for any disciplinary action. I think that's a good question to ask at this point. So, but also as a side note, I do know that the access to naloxone is getting wider and wider. I know that there's been legislation to make it available in every state agency, in schools. So I think it's getting a little more commonplace, and one hopes that in so doing, the education about it and the safety about it also is looked at. Sure.
Thank you so much for those good comments. We will move on to, thank you for your comments, Mr. Prasad. Appreciate it. We will move on to the executive committee report, which was in your packets. It was provided in the meeting resources. Is there any board discussion or questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment in the room? Seeing none, is there any public comment online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. Instructions are on the screen. If you're logged in, click on the outline of a hand, raise your hand, click on the Q&A, type the word comment, send it to all panelists if you prefer. If you're calling in, *3 from your phone to raise your virtual hand. No request for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
I would, thank you so much. We will now move on to agenda item 9, licensing and evaluations. Ms. Shelley Brown.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
So the licensing division report is included in your packet. We do have one thing to note. We do now have access to real-time inquiry phone line and statistical data. So we're very excited. It's been over a year since the phones transitioned. So we're very excited. We can now monitor our inquiry line like we used to. Did anyone have any questions?
Seeing none, are there any questions from the public in the room? Seeing none, are there any public comments online?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. Instructions on the screen. *3 from your phone if you're calling in, or the outline of a hand if you are logged in. No request. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
I would, thank you so much. And thank you, Ms. Brown, appreciate it. Agenda item 10, legislative and regulations report. Recommendations and possible actions. Ms. Yamaguchi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we know, the Legend Regs world will be pretty busy for us in the coming years. But one thing we've talked about, and I know we've had good conversations with the Legend Regs Committee and especially Ms. Carpenter, is just as we prepare an annual rulemaking calendar, the board's talked about the idea of having a more long-range plan, if you will, or legislative concepts. And one of the things we wanted to work up, and the staff and I have been putting together all the ideas we've ever had or anybody's ever suggested to us. At this point, though, just as a high-level comment, you know, we put the list of the concepts in the agenda. I did want to say that basically, it's probably the better course of wisdom right now to really, I think, just introduce the concepts, but also, you know, any board comment or questions or any board suggestions of anything we missed. But also, my recommendation at this point, though, would be to take this list and bring it back, have the staff work with it, develop out, you know, those concepts, the pros, the cons, and especially to talk about the timelines, the priorities. For example, some of these are already kind of urgent. Some of them, I think, may be a ways down the road. Some of them may be most appropriately addressed in our sunset report next time. So with that, though, I want to very briefly talk about these concepts. The first one is codifying our scopes of practice. As the board knows, we've been surprised in the past by other entities legislating and requesting changes in our scope and in our practices to, so, you know, in that our own code and our scope is not, I think, specific. It might be a good idea for the board to consider making that a lot more clear and a lot more detailed in our statutes. I think that's something that we could probably actually look a little bit at the regulations package that the Education Division is working on. That'll probably be a good chunk of what I think the specifics might want to become. By the way, if anybody has a specific question as I go, please do say something.
Scope of practice issues are for statutes only.
Yes.
We can't do those in a regulation.
No, what I'm saying is that the regulations that are being worked on
Got it.
actually have a lot of, I think, what needs to be put in statute.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So the next item, what we, again, the board has talked about a number of times, is should there be a limit on the number of times a candidate can take the NCLEX or the capital? Our longtime research and our understanding from other states and jurisdictions has shown that the longer a candidate is out of the training, the less likely they are most of the time to be able to pass the licensing exams. And California is, oddly enough, one of the only places that does not have a limit. Most of the states would limit this to 2 times, 5 times, or within a certain window of time. This is something that, again, we want to have, I think, a really substantive conversation, probably with the Education Committee. I'm also understanding that our sister board for registered nurses is also really interested in this concept as well. So it may well be that this is something that we would be able to partner with them to pursue. Yes, please.
Does the registered nursing board currently have a suggested limit?
Nope. Surprise, huh? The third item, of course,
I have one more comment. I just want to say, I'm not sure, but I'm sure there's research out there that would support limiting, because at some point, it's almost like you're just spinning your wheels.
I think there has been, certainly there's anecdotal information. And I believe that there are certain places that have shown, just that comparison of pass rates for a recent graduate as opposed to pass rates and candidates going forward, 1 year, 2 years, et cetera. But certainly we can, that's necessary for us.
You finished?
With that one.
Okay, just speaking of the RN board, do they have a detailed scope of practice?
No?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's much more detailed than ours.
I thought Dr. Mountain would know.
Yes, they have a detailed scope of practice depending on your level of education and what you're doing with that education. So they have designated advanced practice, as well as someone who becomes an RN and someone who holds the PHN designation. So they have a very detailed, and they've talked about designating it further to that ADN, BSN, MSN doctoral level, since they have all of those within their board.
Thank you.
The next item is going to sound very familiar to everybody. As you remember, we spent a lot of last year discussing the number of theory and clinical hours that should be, our goal in response to not just the Federal Department of Ed's new regulations, but I think in general, looking to really, I think, better define the requirements. Currently, of course, our statute lists the number and lists the what should be theory and what should be clinical. In respect to last year, a number of the programs already moved to conform theirs to that number. Some have not, but we'll see. But I think generally speaking, and I believe that this is discussed in the regulations package that's being worked on as well. But if we did decide to have a specific number or anything that's different what is currently in statute, we would need to run a bill for that. Next, actually, these next two items are kind of married together. I think we've reported to the board and various committees that we've seen a lot of, I think, uptick in programs that basically impart that they can help a person go from CNA to VN in a year. And this, by the way, is kind of it's possible, I suppose, but we don't have a lot of we don't have the ability to supervise, to regulate, or even visit and these organizations that are doing so. So we have no way of making certain that what they are claiming is 100%. And not to put too fine a point on it, we have found, and I think the licensing unit could support me on this, we have found, of course, that people applying to get eligibility to test, CNAs or other medical support staff, their ability to move from that one level to the eligibility to test is varying case by case by case. Some of them, they're missing a couple things. Some of them have very large amounts of work and documentation to provide to move forward. And some of them are really best advised to enroll in one of the programs. So because we've got, I would say that it's generally speaking, comparatively speaking, a fairly small number of people who apply to for eligibility to test in exception to the general, to these alternate pathways. I think it's important that we keep alternate pathways, but I think at some point, I think the education committee and the board itself is going to want to talk a little bit about that, as well as the idea of making certain that people in the community are not promising something they can't deliver. And I'm not going to say something like providing outright fraud, because I'm certain that there is some. Question on that? The sixth one, this is also kind of related to what I was saying in the first concept, and that would be codifying the licensee training requirements and, to make certain that our scopes are absolutely clear with regard to our licensees' work in cosmetics, dermatological, respiratory, and naturopathic work. I think you'll remember that we have had legislation and other things to make our licensees eligible to do this work. We just wanted to be very, very certain that our licensees work under their own scope and that all the expectations are very, very clear. The next item is one that I know the board has talked about a lot. The changing psychiatric technician title and scope. Now, this is huge, and as you know, and again, this is something that I think we're really at just the very beginning of discussion here. I think Dr. McLeod had indicated the work that's been going on with the occupational analysis and the survey that we are going to be seeing come back. Hopefully, I think that we're going to see a really vigorous response this time. I'm hoping so. But generally speaking, as we've talked about any number of times, psychiatric technician is not necessarily really indicative of what they do and what they're trained to do. So there's any number of possibilities of where that can go. Obviously, we want to have longer conversations with of course, the licensees and their reps, with the education units, with the employers, as well as within the board itself. I think, again, this is also something that our ad hoc committee on psychiatric technicians has discussed a number of times, and it will probably be the spear point, I think, for our developing action. But as I said, it's always been so nebulous, this word technician. I've always thought that the term nurse is actually well applied here, but I'm given to understand that there is a lot of comment and a lot of opinion otherwise. I won't get into that too much. But like I said, this is something that's been a long time in coming. I think it's not something that we're going to be able to rush into. In fact, actually, I think this is probably something that we would want to look forward, including in our next sunset. So, comments or questions on that? Hey, Mr. Pizzati? Anytime.
You've touched on quite a few things that I would like to comment on. I'll start with the name change, because that is, I think, one of the things that's going to impact the California Association of Psychiatric Technicians the most, as we probably represent 5,500 of the, 8,700 licensees? Yeah, so well more than half of the licensees. So we do have a concern about what this is going to look like going forward and the name change. I meet with legislators all the time, and when I say psychiatric technicians, their eyes kind of back and they go blank. I say, you know what an LVN is, right? It's kind of like that. Same licensing body, same licensing board. We just have different focuses, right? And then I tell them where we work, and in same institutions, a lot the same work. So we're not opposed to a name change. Now, when you go into the scope of practice, that's where we may have concerns because we want to make sure there's a clear differentiation between what an LVN does and what a psych tech does. We don't want compaction with the scope. So we do have concerns about that. And having said that, I can't begin to tell you the number of calls that I got once you think people don't read your agendas, they do, and then they call me. So I got about 100 calls in that neighborhood once people saw this on the agenda. That's how concerned people were when they see scope of practice change. Excited about potentially the name change, scared to death about the scope of practice change, right? What does that mean? Does that mean, do I have to go back to school? What does that mean? So they freak out, they call me, I have to call you. And so having said that, going forward, CAPTA would like to be included in the conversations and any meeting that the ad hoc committee would have on this issue, we would like it to be an open meeting, a publicly noticed meeting on your website so we would know when they are happening. And so maybe I can get some members up to talk, provide input, especially, like our president, Eric Soto, who's really wading deep into this issue. So that's one issue item. The other one, you mentioned that the scope of practice for PTs and LVNs, I think there should be an alignment with federal requirements here because PTs are prohibited from working in California veterans homes because of reimbursement issues from the federal government. So LVNs can because they're recognized, right? So if we can make sure when we're looking into our scope of practice and codifying our scope of practices, can we make sure that there is some alignment to what the federal government wants? That way we can have more opportunities for both classifications to work in Cal Vets homes. So that's the other thing. And then I believe it was mentioned about theory. There's something about teaching theory, and
That's in the regulations package that's yet to come.
oh, okay. Well, since I'm up here, I'll briefly talk about it. So I've heard that there's this conversation about PTIs, that's psych tech instructors, not being allowed to teach theory. And so if that is the case, we would certainly like, and this is capped as an organization, because these are our PTIs and we represent them. We would like to see some data on this as to why they would not be allowed to teach theory. And we'd like 15 years worth of data on test results. So you go back pre-COVID and then you go back post-COVID, because the kids out of high school these days are certainly having lower test scores all around than when they pre-COVID. I know that as a former school board member, I've seen it because I was there during COVID and post-COVID. And what we'd really like to see is maybe we should dial down into where the actual issue is. I don't know necessarily the instructor is the issue. I think maybe it's the issue with what's coming out of the high schools. So maybe we can help focus more on aligning that. So with that, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Actually, can you,
Sure.
I have a quick question for you. Sorry. It sounded like you were asking for records and I'm just checking to see if that's the case. Are you making a public records request?
If I made it a public records request, I would do it in writing.
Okay, cool. So for right now, we're not going to worry about it. All right.
Well,
If
I
that
mean, are you
changes-
making the regs right now? Are you coming forward with regs on the PTI, the prohibition of PTIs to teach theory? If you're doing that right now, then I would say yes.
Well, no, as everybody knows, the regulatory process takes some time.
Right.
Currently, our hope is to be ready to present language for the board in the May meeting. At that point, if the board approves that language, it opens, of course, that public comment period of 45 days, I believe. And we almost certainly would have to have a hearing on any number of those issues. Then, we process the input, the suggestions. The board looks at that, decides if there are any changes that they would like to make. We open another comment period. So there's a lot of time, I think, and a lot of opportunity to have the dialogues that, I think that you and CAPT are looking for. But in terms of data gathering, that's something I'm going to have to look into.
So I guess then to your point, because there's comment periods that are you're looking at probably the next meeting, right?
The next
For a
meeting
public
for-
hearing and then comment period after that. So you're really starting to get into your reg package. We would want to have data packages before that, so we would be versed enough to make comments on that. So then to backtrack, I would say, yes, this would be a public records request. But I will, if possible, get your email and I'll shoot you a array.
Yeah, actually, you can, am I on? Yeah. So you can submit your request to board staff like you normally would, and I will work with them on it. Yeah, and just, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
that's great. Thank you.
I'd like to comment real quickly on the theory and the education. Just a reminder to the board, your psych tech representatives here are both psych tech instructors. Thank you.
Where was I? Oh, yeah. Number 8.
Commenting on individual items, but I was hoping to address items 4 Yamaguchi was previously speaking about. My name is Brian Tuttle. I am the director of California Preparatory College. We are a low-cost program based out of Southern California that offers what we, for lack of a better term, call a low-cost CNA to LVN program. Our program consists of the required pharmacology class that's required per method number 5, and also an NCLEX PN review class, which reviews test-taking strategies and nursing interventions that the students need to know as they prepare for their exam. One of the things that we do for our students that a lot of the larger schools aren't able to do is that as students are going through our NCLEX PN review program, they're test taking, and the data shows us whether or not they're going to be ready to effectively pass the NCLEX PN exam. And if they're not, our belief is that everybody has the ability to learn the information and to pass the exam. Everybody deserves the opportunity, but everybody starts at different starting points. People come from different backgrounds, different education histories, different countries, and some people require some more time. And so, for example, I have a student in class that I'm very fond of. She's been coming every Saturday for 3 years. And she's continuing to try her very best to learn the information, and she enjoys it. And so, she continues to stay with us. I had some notes. Come on, phone. We do absolutely support additional guidance and regulation for Method 5 candidates and schools that offer pharmacology courses. The reason for that is that California has a reputation of being a state that's always at the forefront of innovation and forward thinking. And the regulations which impact Method 5, which at this point are approximately 50 years old, right, mid-70s, these regulations are really forward thinking. The challenge is that they've never been fully implemented at an A+ level. And what happens as a result of that is that schools like us have a lot of confusion about what it is that we're supposed to be, doing in order to assist our students. An example of this would be the 55A-12 revision 818 form, which this version of it was posted on the website when I left my office on Wednesday afternoon. The form says on it in 5 locations that it can be signed by an LVN supervisor. However, the board has a policy of no longer accepting forms that are signed by an LVN supervisor. And the only way that the applicant finds this out is to send in the paper, be denied, and told to redo it. Or if I tell them. In fact, I am certain that I made Ms. Yamaguchi aware of this in November of 2023. And yet that form continues to stay posted, and it doesn't comport with the board's policy of how they evaluate applications.
So, sir,
Another,
if I may, are you advocating for a particular nuts and bolts approach to revising existing alternative pathways to licensure and the authority to regulate the prep program?
yes, I would very much like to be regulated by the board.
Like a detailed conversation.
Perhaps, yes. Unfortunately, I've been unable to garner an appointment with Ms. Yamaguchi. Our attorney from Dwayne Morris had a brief video conference with her. We followed that up with a comprehensive request for answers to specific questions in early 2024 that was sent to board counsel and Ms. Yamaguchi. I haven't received a response to that letter, though it's been requested multiple times. I spent tens of thousands of dollars attempting to get a response to these questions, and I can't get them. And what we want to do is the right thing. We want to do nothing but help our students. And in order to do that, we're hoping that we can work cooperatively with the board. I believe that we are the school that more of your Method 5 applicants go to for pharmacology than any other school in the state. I do believe that. And so because of that, we have real boots on the ground understanding of where the disconnect is happening between the board's expectations and between what the applicant's understanding is. So, for example, one of the requirements can be, 240 hours of genitourinary experience.
Well, sir, once again, you understand that this is a informational item. We're not prepared to entertain, consider nuts and bolts approaches other than your request for response by the board.
Well, I'm not requesting that you entertain any specific nuts and bolts examples at this moment. My hope is simply to provide you with a brief overview, if you might permit me about 2 more minutes.
I wanted to say we appreciate all the information that you brought. I have 2 questions too before
Yes.
you continue. When you say you're a low-cost alternate, what does that mean?
We charge $2,450 for our program. And we offer a no interest payment plan to our students.
I don't need to know about that. My other question is, when you have this person coming on Saturdays, are you providing clinical experience?
Clinicals are not required per method number 5.
Right. But you're also saying that you're assuring that this person is competent to sit for the board. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. I couldn't possibly assure that they are ready. I can offer a professional judgment about what their test scores look like based on my.
Basically focused on just the testing portion of the end. I'm just trying to clarify.
Yes.
My
We're
own mind.
we're focused on pharmacology, meeting the board requirements for pharmacology, and we are focused on a test taking class to teach them test taking strategies and reviewing the basic information that they need to know that's going to be encompassed within the exam. We've altered our program to,
That's good.
Excuse me, I have a question. What is your pass rate?
we don't keep track of a pass rate. And the reason for that is that when we attempt to communicate with the board regarding pass or no pass, what we end up with are responses that say, sorry, we don't delineate between our method 5 applicants and other test takers. And so because you're not regulated by the board, we can't give you that information.
Okay, thank you.
A question.
Can I make a recommendation?
Please.
The board can, either now or at the end of the meeting, decide if they would like to place this on the agenda for a future meeting so that it can actually be discussed and action taken on it. That's, yeah. So
Thank you for your comments.
I
think
appreciate it.
that's
I'd be
what
most
this
appreciative
board
of that
can
as well.
appreciate.
Council points well taken, but actually that's the entire intent of what we're doing right now is having the board listen to the concepts that have been discussed and at some point, deciding when to take more definitive action and start gaining information for a proposal.
Yeah, if you guys want to continue to accept the information and have him continue to, to provide the information on this topic, that's fine.
Question.
What is the length of your program?
The program is 6 months by design. However, students may stay in the review class as long as it suits them. As long as they continue to show up, we continue to offer them a seat.
Yeah, we have.
Appreciate your coming. And
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. So I believe we're at number 8, and that would be adding bill language to omit boards. I think certainly Ms. Carpenter will remember that last year and the year before and certain others, we've seen an uptick in this trend really in legislators asking for expedited or preferential processing of applications. And this is understandable because historically speaking, not every board processes their work, processes their licensees' applications really quickly. Ours does. So consequently, our position that we've discussed, I think, a number of times is that it would do no good and could actually delay a candidate's processing to have this expedited process. So we had suggested, and actually I believe DCA as a whole has had discussions about this with their own, with their legislative shop and with the agency. But we believe though that if there are these bills, and I believe the governor has said, please don't do these. But if there are these bills, there should be language in them that says for boards or for entities that have their processing times X number of weeks later than posted or something like that, because I think it's really, disillusioning, for folks to think that, well, if there's an exception for me, then that's great. Obviously, our top priority is to make certain that people who go through our processes are qualified and are going to be safe practitioners. But when you start making exceptions and start making these special categories, eventually there's nobody left that isn't in a special category. So anyways, this is something that I know that we've talked about a number of times, that again, this is something that we might want to discuss the possibility of future legislation on. But again, assuming that DCA as a whole, I know, has been discussing it and may want to move ahead their own selves. Next one is authorizing a special fee for programs, school programs that are placed on provisional and or are requesting substantial curriculum changes. This was overlooked in the sunset bill that authorized us to collect fees for the school approvals. But is, even though I believe it is a very small number of the whole, the amount of work that the NECs engage in to first off to work with a program that's on provisional, and secondly to work with a program that wants to go through substantial curriculum, it's considerable. And given how tight our staff resources are, I think this is something that we would want to continue discussing in the future. Again, this might be one of those things that the legislature is not willing to discuss out of the sunset context or something, but I believe it's a conversation worth having.
The BRN, I know that the BRN charges a substantial amount, I know how it is, for curriculum changes. They charge for minor curriculum changes as well as major curriculum changes.
Yeah.
So, and it is substantial.
Yeah. So kind of building on that, as the board will recall, we were really just recently approved and authorized to collect fees from the schools. The legislature, in its infinite wisdom, I think, gave us a very, very small starting place with the idea that this was, testing the waters, and we would be moving ahead. And well, clearly, we've done a number of workforce, just top of the line studies to find out how many hours these things take. It's kind of a lot. So one of the things that I do know that we want to think about, as Mr. Ito was describing, is we believe that, and I know that we've had conversations about this as well, we believe that people should be paying a fair amount. And in as much as the schools at this point don't pay a fee that is representative of the amount of work, our funds are based on our licensee renewals and fees. That's not sustainable. It's not fair. So as Mr. Ito was saying, that one of the things we want to do soon is have a third party fee analysis or study to really, I think, put out some ideas of how we can make our structure fair and sustainable. So that's a big one, and I think it's one that should really be a very high priority for us. The next one, of course, is authorizing cite and fine for continuing education and IV blood withdrawal providers. We are thinking that this is, as you know, the legislature authorized us to start a cite and fine program for the schools themselves. We think that these other providers would benefit, let's say benefit from a little bit more regulation, a little bit more attention and structure. I don't want to say that there is fraud going on, but I know that there's a great irregularity of the way these programs are structured and presented. Creation of a post-licensure certification for respiratory care. This again is a long one, and even though I think it's kind of contingent on how RCB continues to move their regulations with this regard and their training programs, I think a number of factors we've talked about over the years is we don't have other post-licensure certifications for given practice areas. This is something that we might want to discuss. And the one that comes to mind quickly is respiratory care, because there is that uncertainty, we think, of who should be able to do what is within these individual scopes. So again, that's one that we've talked about a lot. The next one is something that I think is something the state as a whole may want to be looking at. I don't know if ECA has been looking at this in a bigger form, but sentence enhancements for abuse of developmentally disabled patients. Bluntly, board members, you see some really challenging and really horrifying incidents, and there's really limits on what we can do in terms of correcting that. So this is, again, something that it is part of, I think, a very much larger picture, but it is something that I think it would be a good thing for this board to raise. Final one is codifying the ABC test for licensees working as independent contractors. This is something that we have been concerned about and looking at over the past couple of years, that with the larger rollout of these online job posting places, that these places who say, yeah, you need an LVN, we'll send you an LVN. What we have heard, and again, this is anecdotal, what we've heard is, of course, is that these nurses appear for a shift that they've agreed to do, and there's not the adequate supervision, and they're asked to do stuff that's outside their scope. There's no way to control that. And as independent contractors, there are rules and laws about what an independent contractor means. And to our understanding, the fact that our licensees must have the specified supervision, must stay in this scope, it kind of makes us wonder that if it is within their purview to become independent contractors. And I think that even if the state is amenable to that, there might need to be some real conversations defining that better or structuring it better for certain licensees. So at this point, that's the end of my list. I'd love to answer any other questions or comments. So going forward with this, as I was saying, I think that between now and, oh, go ahead. I know, go ahead, come on. Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Oh, not always the naysayer. So.
Glad to hear that too.
I want to sing your praises on a couple items. Thank you, Ms. Yamaguchi. It's Kobe Pizzotti again from the California Association of Psychiatric Technicians. You're singing to the choir here when you're talking about authorizing a fee for school programs that are akin to what it actually takes for the NECs to authorize and accredit these programs. It's clearly one-sided as to who's funding this board, and this quasi department here is the licensees are, right? They're subsidizing these programs who are taking much more of the NEC's time to accredit them than it takes to accredit or license a licensee. So we think that should be fair, and we will be right there along the way helping you with legislation. In fact, we will co-sponsor if need be.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we've contemplated sponsoring it ourselves. So, it would be nice to be a partner in this with you guys. So the other one that we've had some real issues with is staffing agencies and the accountability that they have. We've had issues where we as CAP have to represent some of our members who get into trouble. Well, they end up getting terminated from a state department or, a state hospital or what have you. We will see that one person that we represented who had to resign in lieu of termination show up in a staffing agency right next to the people they were working side by side. It's kind of like Napa State Hospital. You could say somebody was basically going to get fired. That would have an action on their license usually. But before that action can take place, they get a job with a staffing agency because they've resigned in lieu of termination. Staffing agency hires them, says it's great. They put them back to work at Napa State Hospital, who is outsourcing jobs because there is such a tremendous vacancy rate. There's 37% vacancy rate for PTs at Napa State Hospital. They're in dire need, so anyone they can get. There's not a ton of accountability on these staffing agencies, so any chance we get, maybe have a more oversight of that, especially from the licensing body, to make sure that these contractors, these independent contractors, are being accountable for their actions and making sure that they're up to speed on what it is that they're doing. So we really appreciate that. So thank you for that.
So from here, what I will recommend is that staff take these concepts back and kind of make a more detailed, cogent proposal that we work with the Legend Regs Committee for eventual action by the board.
So this should be a referral back to Legend Reg?
Yeah.
Does that require board action then?
No, it's not. Sure.
Oh, looks like we have another comment right here in the room. Come forward.
Good morning. It's still morning. My name is Robert Knowles. I'm a licensed psychiatric technician and a licensed vocational nurse. And I was just wanted to comment on item 2, limiting NCLEX and CAP exam attempts. It wasn't an issue for me. I passed both exams the first time I took them, but there were many other students I know that found it a challenge. And it wasn't just a challenge because of the content of the exams, but because life happens. And it's a significant financial investment to go to school, and the time investment as well of going to school, graduating a program, and then getting ready to take your attempt. I knew many people that were disrupted in their process for that. I would just ask the board be generous when it comes to limiting the number of attempts or having a time frame in which to take the exam. That's all. That's all I wanted to say.
To follow up on that point, very briefly, there's a presumption that passing the test leads to a safe and competent practitioner. That's our mission here. So my question would be, is there a relationship between the number of times a candidate takes the exam and further issues like discipline?
I don't believe we've ever really analyzed that, but that's a really good question.
Love that question. And I just want to say I appreciate your comments. I know that test anxiety can play a part in that as well. But as we look at this, certainly looking at how many times someone takes a test and maybe after so many attempts, a refresher is appropriate, because we know educationally that we get to the 3-month mark, people haven't taken the test, things just start to we don't remember things. So it's just something to consider as we look at this whole situation. And it is very expensive. It's expensive to go to school. It's expensive to take the test. So I absolutely support what you said.
So last item here is discussion possible action to initiate rulemaking. This is with regard to creating a retired licensee category, which was approved in our sunset bill. At this point, there's not much besides updating that I and our regs counsel, Ms. Shields, and some of the other teams have at least looked at the beginnings of drafting language for this. But I think this remains, I think, something that is a good thing for us to do for the field.
I'd like to say something to that. I don't know if people are aware that during COVID, everyone who was a registered nurse, and I'm not sure about LVN in the state, we received an email saying, are you willing to help serve? if you're retired or not, can you please give us what your availability is, what you're doing? And I think creating this retired option for people puts them in a position where should something come up and they want to help serve if there's a disaster, it would be much easier for them to just step in and do that. So I absolutely support that.
They asked me if the NECs could go back to work.
I'm sure they asked everyone.
I said, you really don't want that. So that is this item.
Thank you. It doesn't look like we need to call for a vote.
No, this is just all updates.
Okay, great, excellent. Shall we move forward to agenda item 11, enforcement report recommendations and possible actions? And that would be Ms. Wood.
Good morning. My name is Antoinette Wood. I'm the Enforcement Division Chief. You have my report. I do have a few things I'd like to go over before we get into it. So under the Administrative Procedure Act, a decision that contains a significant legal or policy determination of a general application is likely to reoccur may be designated as precedential by the BVMPT. Once a decision is designated as precedential, the BVMPT is able to rely on it when making decisions in other similar cases before the board. I'd like to speak about the Aguele decision today. The respondent, who was a licensed vocational nurse, formerly owned and operated a residential care facility for the elderly. Respondent was a caregiver there, which did not require her to act in her capacity as an LVN. After the death of a resident at the facility, the California Department of Social Services, which licenses RCFEs, conducted an investigation into the resident's death. CDS's investigation substantiated the allegation that the respondent physically abused the resident. Based on the findings of the investigation, they referred the matter to BVMPT for possible discipline. In the decision, it states that nursing is a highly regulated field and LVNs must be able to follow applicable statutes and regulations. Respondent's ability to follow RCFE regulations, though not in the course of her work as an LVN, is therefore related to her practice as a nurse. Although the respondent was not providing nursing care to LW, she was responsible for the safety and well-being of a vulnerable person. Her failure to comply with legal regulation designed to ensure the safety and dignity of such an individual demonstrated an unfitness to practice nursing. On that basis, the complainant proved clear and convincing evidence the respondent engaged in general unprofessional conduct when she violated the DSS regulations governing the treatment of RCFE residents. The respondent's license was revoked, the revocation was stayed, and she was placed on probation. Due to the CDS's reporting of substantiated complaints pertaining to the BVMPT licensees working in CDS facilities, the division is able to work more closely with the Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing Division. We're hopeful that this will help protect even more consumers, particularly vulnerable persons in care. We're excited to report the strides been made in consumer protection with the insistence and support of the Enforcement Committee and the board, and we would like to express our appreciation to both our chair, Ken Maxey, and our committee member, Leslie Moore. Thank you. Did anyone have any questions?
No, but thank you for sharing that follow-up. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from the board? Any public comment? Any public comment online?
This is the moderator, and we are open for public comment on WebEx. Members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon, and if you're an audio-only participant, you can press *3 on your device to raise your hand. All right, this is the moderator. I'm not seeing any requests for public comment on this item. And then Board President, I just want to confirm if we can open up for public comment on the previous item. I don't think we we gave the chance for that.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Members of the public on WebEx, if you want to make a comment on the previous item, you can click the raise hand icon in order to raise your hand. And if you're an audio only participant, you can press *3 on your device to raise your hand. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you very much. Will you be able to close our Public comment?
This is the moderator. Yes, it's closed.
Thank you. Investigation Division report? Ms. Higashi? Did I say that right? Good, okay.
Good morning. My name is Stacy Higashi, and I am the supervising special investigator for the investigation division. My report is in your packet. Do you have any questions?
Seeing no board questions, are there any public comments in the room? Seeing none, can we open that for public comment, please?
Sure. This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no requests for public comment on WebEx.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Maxey is not here for number C, Enforcement Committee report. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
The Enforcement Committee is excited to update the board on the recent work. Enforcement outreach, as discussed at prior board meetings, the Enforcement Division is working on outreach in an effort to help licensees avoid being subject to an enforcement action and to better understand the enforcement process. This includes sending out an email reminder before Christmas and New Year's about intoxicated driving, updating the board's website to include more information about the enforcement process, and working with new PSAs. The next PSAs will be on probation licensees' roles and responsibilities if they are on probation, licensees in the enforcement process. The Enforcement Division hopes that by providing more information to licensees about enforcement actions in the enforcement process, we will see fewer cases. Special Investigations Unit cost recovery, as discussed at prior board meetings. The Special Investigations Unit has fully implemented entering cost recovery for cases as of January 15, 2025. This will allow the board to collect cost recovery for cases investigated by the board's special investigators that resulted in discipline. That's my report.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Does the board have any questions or discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment in the room? Seeing none, is there any public comment online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon, or you can, if you're an audio only participant, you can press *3 on your device to raise your hand. All right, it looks like we have a request from Brandy Coward. And Brandy, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hi, it's Brandy Coward. I did have a comment and apologies. I had to step out for a moment, came back. Hopefully it wasn't something mentioned previously. It was mentioned earlier about PT and teaching theory. I think, and changes in regs. The same thing I am thinking is a problem for the LVN in theory and potential changes. I do have a lot of concerns about that, as well as potential changes on clinical ratios. I do feel it can be punitive. I know these are things that are coming up in the future and there'll be more discussion, but I would also like to see data behind that because our school is doing very well. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for your comments.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment.
Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 12, Psychiatric Technician Ad Hoc Committee Report recommendations and possible actions. Mr. Hill.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We had our last meeting on January 6, 2025. Meeting minutes are included in the agenda. We did have had some activities since then in a conversation with Dr. McLeod and Ms. Moore and myself. We've identified three state agencies that offer psych tech-like licenses. Two of them actually use a psychiatric technician name, and the other one, and I believe Dr. McLeod, you might want to correct me if I'm wrong, but a mental health specialist. And so we are going to look into partnering up with them, at least to gather some initial information, but maybe have it so that we can work alongside these other entities to help us form a better understanding of what we need to concern ourselves about and with the future of the psychiatric technician, and especially the name. And in our next in a couple of agendas from now, in our future agenda, I'm going to make a request of the board, and I'll save it for that. And that's the end of my report.
And I really appreciate you checking with other agencies. I didn't realize that there were 3 others. That's excellent. So very nice. Thank you. Any board discussion or questions? Any public comment? We knew that was coming.
We love you. So, say thank you for being so diligent and thinking about us and the process in which you're going about this name change. We really do appreciate that. I wanted to point out a couple things. Also, there is a term in law called behavioral technician, and there is a new bill out there, and I think it's AB 277. I could be wrong, that defines behavioral technician or a autism provider as a behavioral technician, and it goes from provider, professional, and paraprofessional, all included in the behavioral technician. So as we look at that, I think there needs to be some clear delineation between what is a behavioral technician and what is a psychiatric technician as we go forward, because again, scopes vary from each to each, and we don't want to step on anybody's toes, and we want to make sure that it's clearly defined as what is our role as we move forward. Thank you.
Great comments. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Is there any public comment online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that raise hand icon. And for your audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. And I do have a request from Betty McVeigh. Betty, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Oh, 1 second, you lowered your hand. Thank you. All right, please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. Right, let me, oh, there we go.
I'm having technical difficulties.
We could hear you for a second. Do you mind speaking one more time?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I am addressing the psych tech theory. What I wanted to say is my name is Betty McVeigh, and I know that we're addressing a topic that's evoking a lot of strong emotions. I want to first start by saying that I respect this board, and I'm thankful for having the opportunity to be heard with all open minds. I'm a full-time tenured professor at Porterville College Psychiatric Technician Program, and I currently teach both theory and clinical classes. And I've been the program's lead mental health instructor for the last 7 years. I just have been appointed by the California Association of Psychiatric Technician Educators to head up a work group. We will be advocating against the BVNPT's proposed changes to require RN licensure for all theory instructors in California psychiatric technician programs. CAPT, CAPT, and the clinical agencies that we partner with all stand in solidarity against the proposed changes.
Although we have explored and are aware of our ability to advocate against these changes through DCA complaints and legal actions, we want to do exactly what we educate our psychiatric technician students to do, and that is to start with the least restrictive environment that is most appropriate for the situation. As per usual in our profession, we want to begin with communication and hope that the board will be able to impact this proposal from a broader and more well-informed lens. When we were first made aware of the proposed changes during our holiday break, as you can imagine, it elicited feelings of confusion, frustration, underappreciation, and fear from the PT community. We believe that there may be a sense of inappropriate and inadequate appreciation for the value and quality of the contributions of psychiatric technician and the psychiatric technician educators. We also believe that there may be a lack of understanding of the psychiatric technician profession and the potential for different avenues of trajectory for the profession. Although these are things that should be clarified and resolved in the future, our central focus today is to analyze and evaluate detrimental outcomes that this proposal can result in. I'm sorry, I'm having a lot of technical difficulty here. Merriam-Webster's. Okay, when we take the emotion and insult out of this situation, we're able to focus on what the actual purpose of the BVMPT is. And although the board regulates psychiatric technicians, it is not the duty or the job of the board to represent them. The duty of the board is to safeguard from peril. We're aware that this is a mission of the board to protect the public by licensing and regulating qualified and competent psychiatric technicians. So that is what we will address. Merriam-Webster's definition of competency is the
30
ability to do
seconds.
something successfully or efficiently. Since it is the duty of the BVMPT to assure that psychiatric technician students are given the appropriate educational opportunities to enter the workforce as competent practitioners, we ask how competency will be obtained when these students will only be taught by instructors who have never performed the job duties that future psychiatric technicians will go on to perform. Many of these duties with violent, unpredictable, manipulative, and criminal patients. If you don't understand what I mean, I implore you to go to any state website, which is where the majority of
All right,
psychiatric
this is the
technicians
moderator.
are
Unfortunately, time is
employed, and
up,
read
so
the
we're going to
job
move on to our
description of
next
a registered
individual.
nurse and compare it to the job description of a psychiatric.
All right. This is the moderator. Next, I have Dr. Andrew Sanchez. And Dr. Sanchez, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Good afternoon to all board members. My name is Dr. Andrew Sanchez. I am the program director for the Mount San Antonio College Psychiatric Technician Program. During the end of the year and the beginning of this year, my NEC informed me that the new board's upcoming proposed changes will be that psychiatric technicians will not be allowed to teach the didactic theory component of the psychiatric technician curriculum, and we will only be allowed to teach the clinical portion. The proposal was to have only RNs, registered nurse, teach the didactic component and not PTs. This is concerning because the PT program has a developmental disabilities curriculum, which I understand the RN program does not have. I am an RN, I'm an NP, both an FNP and a Psych NP. And only time I've learned, I was taught about developmental disabilities was in my psychiatric technician program. So this means that psychiatric technicians are better qualified to teach the developmental disabilities component of the curriculum. The Mount San Antonio College Psychiatric Technician has been in existence since 1970, and the developmental disabilities didactic curriculum has only been taught by psychiatric technicians. Our board pass rates in the last 5 years has been an average of 92%, which was 217 out of 236 applicants that tested. Like what our CAP representative, Mr. Prezzotti, suggested, we, the psychiatric technicians, directors, and faculty would like to be involved in these discussions to enlighten the board on how PT instructors are important in the part of the success of the PT program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Next, I have Christina Curry. And Christina, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Good afternoon, board members. I too am speaking on regarding the LVNs having to have BSN degrees. I'm writing to express my concerns regarding the proposed policy required for all vocational nursing instructors to hold a Bachelor of Science degree, thereby excluding licensed vocationals from teaching positions. While I understand the board's intentions is to elevate educational standards, I believe this decision could inadvertently undermine the quality and accessibility of vocational nursing education. LVNs possess valuable real-world experience and practical understanding of the profession that is critical for training future nurses. Our hands-on experience often bridges the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application, offering students insight that are both relevant and immediately applicable in clinical settings. Many LVN instructors have years, if not decades, of experience working directly with patients and mentoring new nurses, making them uniquely qualified to teach the next generation. By excluding LVN instructors like myself, the board risks creating an environment where vocational nursing education becomes disconnected from the realities of the profession. BSN prepared nurses, while highly educated, may not always have the same depth and experience in vocational nursing specific practices. Moreover, LVN instructors often serve as role models for students, demonstrating that it is possible to achieve career success and make meaningful contributions in the field without a BSN. This policy change could also lead to unintended consequences, such as a shortage of qualified instructors. Many vocational nursing programs rely on LVNs to fill teaching positions. Here at Charles A. Jones, which is the Sacramento City Unified School District, have 3 very successful, well-experienced LVN instructors who have been teaching for more than 10 years at the Sacramento City Unified School District with a very successful pass rate. I urge the board to consider alternative approaches that acknowledge the value of LVN instructors while maintaining high educational standards. In conclusion, LVNs are an integral part of vocational nursing education. Their exclusion from teaching positions will not only diminish the diversity and perspective in the classroom, but also create unnecessary barriers of delivering high education. We please hope that you take this consideration to the matter. I'm confident together that we can develop a policy that holds educational excellence
30 seconds.
by honoring the invaluable contributions of LVN instructors. Thank you, board.
Madam Chair, if I could just interject at this moment. We've been having folks comment on this item, which I've mentioned is part of a future regulatory package. And I laid out the comment periods, the input periods there. I would never want people not to have a chance to speak. But if I could ask that if you are looking to say something principally similar to something someone else has already said, if you would just please place your name on the record and say, I agree with prior speaker. I'd really appreciate that.
Agreed. Thank you so much.
All right, this is the moderator. Next, I have Monica, and Monica, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Oh, 1 second, you lowered your hand. Let me find you in the attendee list again. Okay, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. All right, Monica, and you are unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
This is the moderator. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, this is the moderator. We can hear you.
Hello. Can
Unfortunately, it seems like Monica cannot hear us. We're able to hear her. In the meantime, I'm going to put her back on mute and see if we can put some audio instructions up on the screen. And in the meantime, we'll move on to our next individual. All right. Thank you. All right, so next I have Clarissa Cerda, and Clarissa, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
15 years ago. I have renewed my license every 2 years, always holding full-time employment as a nurse until April 2004, when disciplinary action was unjustly taken against me. I had full faith in the board and its investigation process when an accusation was brought up against me. I have fully cooperated with all requests and communications received. I would like to emphasize, by law, these incidents never occurred. I have no criminal record and no convictions resulted from these accusations. I had been wrongfully disciplined. Your website states under frequently asked questions, do I have to report an arrest to the board if not convicted? No, you only need to report an arrest if you were convicted. The incident not only did not result in conviction, in fact, never occurred. Now, I also need the board to understand I was blatantly lied to and put in a corner by the DA the day before the trial and practically forced to settle a case before I was able to be heard. I shared all this information with the DA and he dismissed everything I told him and continued to pressure me with threats of additional fees and longer probationary period and loss of my license. I felt I had no choice but to submit and to continue to support myself and my family. Regardless, now that the case is closed, I was given these disciplinary actions that I should never have been subjected to initially. The following criteria is supposed to be taken into consideration when determining whether revocation, suspension, or probation should be imposed in a given disciplinary action per the board's disciplinary guidelines. I would go through all 13, but I know time is short. So all 13 in no way are any relevant. So I am now requesting that the board review these actions and discipline taken against my license being put on the calendar for the next meeting. Thank you.
Hi, this is the board's legal counsel. I'd like to respond. If you would like the board to, if you would like to petition for reconsideration, you may do that. I don't know how long ago this decision happened, but check with the Administrative Procedures Act regarding timelines for your case, and you can submit your request in writing, okay? If you have any questions, please call the board staff, and we can work together to help you with getting that information to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Moderator, are there other comments?
Yes, this is the moderator. We do have a couple more requests for comment on WebEx. So next I have Amy Toll, and Amy, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
My name is Amy Tull. I'm a psychiatric technician educator. I've been a licensed psychiatric technician for 31 years and a registered nurse for 13 years. And I would just like to say that my history and experience as a registered nurse has not exposed me to intellectual disabilities or mental health patients. Therefore, not gaining the expertise and knowledge or qualifications to teach these courses in our program. However, my experience and knowledge gained being a psychiatric technician, again, for over 30 years, has given me that expertise. I believe not allowing psychiatric technicians to teach lecture in these courses would be a great disservice to our students. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Can we move to the next person?
Yep, this is the moderator. Next I have Jamie Ramos, and Jamie, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
I believe we need some clarity on the driving motive of this ceasing psychiatric technicians from participating in the didactic portion of the PT programs. I've been asking around what is the reason for this, and I haven't gotten a clear answer. And maybe that's what is needed. Second, I believe there's already an ad hoc committee formed, and I would like to see more psychiatric technician representation in that committee. And lastly, I just concur with what Dr. Sanchez comments. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Are there other comments?
Yes, this is the moderator. Next, we have Monica. Monica, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak in a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Monica. Dear members of the board, I appreciate the board's commitment to maintaining high standards in the psychiatric technician education. However, I strongly oppose the recent requirement by only registered nurses be allowed to teach theory courses in the PsyTech programs. Myself, with 13 years of experience as a licensed psychiatric technician, I work across a wide range of settings, including private hospitals, county jails. And honestly, throughout this experience, I have gained firsthand knowledge of the distinct challenges and specialized skills required for individuals with psychiatric conditions and developmental disabilities. We know that our program is divided in 3 areas. Unfortunately, from my experience, for what I've seen, because our expertise, it's very needed in a sense of behavior modification, being able to escalate behaviors. I've seen the RNs, they're great with medical care, but unfortunately, based on my experience directly working at the hospitals, they have a very difficulty time dealing with psych patients, and this is where psych-techs come in. So I think that if on the field they have difficulty responding to patients that need to be de-escalated, teaching specialist curriculum, it's I think it will be challenging if they don't have those skills. So thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing us to do this public comments.
Thank you for your comments. Much appreciated.
This is the moderator. Next, I have Jubef Pasqua. And Jubef, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. Apologies, Jubef. It looks like you might be signed in twice, which is causing an echo. Can you log out of one of your WebEx sessions? That way we don't get that audio feedback. Give them a moment to sign out of one of those sessions.
Moderator, do we have other hands raised besides this one?
This is the moderator. No, this was our last request for public comment. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the individual is logging out of the second session. They did type in the Q&A, and I can read that if that is all right. I'll go ahead and read what they wrote in the Q&A, which is, what is the BVMPT stand on joining the compact states? And then I believe
That's a future agenda item. We'll move that to future agenda items if that's all right.
Sure. And then, Jubeth, if you're able to log out of your second session, so we only have one, when we get to that agenda item, I can unmute your microphone then. With that said, it appears there are no further comments on this current agenda item.
Thank you. I believe we'll move on to agenda item 13, public comment on items not on the agenda. Please note, the board may not discuss or take any action on. Oh, did we just do that? We were actually still on item 12. We've done this. I know, we still have to read it. All right, let's see. The board may not discuss or take any action on any item raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. So, all right, is there any public comment in the room?
Amen.
I just want you to know, I didn't organize that at all. I just brought it up. Having said that, I will go back to that topic and say that given how unpopular the idea of prohibiting psych tech instructors from teaching theory courses, and now that you have a full board of PTIs and LVNs, LVN instructors, I understand, would also be prohibited in this prohibition, that portion of the regulation package should be stripped out. That's what I would request, that as we go forward, strip that out before you even submit any proposals for regulations. It's something that is, wildly unpopular, and I think you'll see data proves that out, that it's not necessary at this point. If you look in a historical standpoint from pre-COVID and post-COVID, there's probably other ways to get to the same thing. So having said that, we all want to see better test scores. We all want to see people coming out of our schools prepared and passing exams at a high rate and treating our individuals with mental and developmental disabilities with the quality care they deserve. Having said that, you can't necessarily learn by being just an RN who hasn't done the exact work that you need to do. You need to be a PT or an LVN working with those populations. So I would simply say, I don't know if the process, I don't know the process about how this came to be, what drove it, who was driving it. But I would certainly say I doubt highly that it was a psych tech instructor that was driving that. And if that's the case, I would really like to have this this proposal in the regulation package stripped out and eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there further online comments on this topic?
All right, this is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment for items not on the agenda, please click that raise hand icon. And if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and I have a request from Elizabeth McPeak. And Elizabeth, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, have you considered with the LVN and the PT of asking for a degree, maybe not necessarily a designation of registered nurse or that, because I'm with them that I know nothing about psychiatric tech and I'm an RN with a master's degree. So I think that there should be some other considerations in there, and maybe it is there, but degrees might help you decide who should be able to teach psych tech or LVN theory. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Next I have Christine A. Meager, and Christine, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hi, yes. Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I'm also a psychiatric technician educator, and I do strongly oppose your proposal of having only RNs teach the theory part of the psychiatric technician program. I find that I would be more competent in this position over a registered nurse for several reasons. As a psychiatric technician, we typically undergo training specifically focused on mental health, behavioral health, and the direct care of patients with psychiatric disorders as well as developmental disabilities. So this specialized knowledge allows us to be more adept at teaching theory related to psychiatric care. And we have hands-on experience in the field and are intimately familiar with the content of this training. So patients in the psychiatric setting, we as PTs, we work more directly with them and on a daily basis, gaining kind of real world experience that's highly relevant to the subject matter that we're teaching. Our knowledge of specific interventions, therapeutic techniques, and the basic nuances of mental health care can give us a practical perspective that enhances our teaching ability in the psychiatric technician program. So while RNs are trained to provide general medical care across a wide range of conditions, us as psychiatric technicians focus on the unique needs of individuals with mental health challenges and developmental disabilities. So our education and our work experience are typically more centered around psychiatric and developmental disabilities, making us more familiar with specialized terminology, concepts, and practices involved in psychiatric care and developmental disabilities. So psych techs are trained to use specific techniques and approaches for working with patients with psychiatric disorders, including de-escalation methods, behavior management, and crisis intervention. And this hands-on expertise in these areas allow us to convey theory more effectively, since we understand both the theoretical framework and how it applies in practice. So as a psychiatric technician, often we develop skills in teaching and supporting our peers in the clinical setting. And because we are familiar with the type of material taught in our own training program, we are better equipped to communicate complex
30
psychiatric
seconds.
concepts in a relatable way for students who are training for similar roles. So while RNs are highly skilled in medical and nursing practices, they may not have the same level of specialized training in psychiatric and developmental disabilities, and they have a broader knowledge in general health care, but not mental health. And so that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there other comments on items not on the agenda?
One moment. Looks like I do have a request from Jazel Piga. And Jazel, I'm going to request to unmute your microphone. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
I just wanted to highlight the Napa Valley College's P-Tech program director, Andrew Royal, for stepping up and taking on the role to keep the program going. So I just wanted to applaud her. That is all.
Thank you. Are there other comments?
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment.
Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 14, suggestions for future agenda items.
Yes. I want to
Okay.
add a few. I'm requesting that the board agenda item for the PTs instructors and LBN instructors portion for the upcoming reference removed from the consideration packet for the next to be removed with the next agenda on the next agenda.
Be placed on the next?
Yes.
As far as I know, there's no, the next agenda hasn't been determined in full yet, so I appreciate that you guys want to remove it. But just letting you know, it's not like it's already written and
to
we're trying to
continue.
remove it. Yeah.
Continue the discussion.
Are there other
Yeah, I have
suggestions?
one item, Madam President. Consideration of scope and of practice and liability and ancillary issues regarding distribution of naloxone in state facilities and institutions, PTs and DNs, and further refer them to the exec committee.
Excellent.
I also have one, Madam Chair. In relations to the upcoming occupational analysis and the ad hoc committee activity, we have some questions that we'd like to present to the board as possible questions that can be placed in the occupational analysis. Hopefully in a timely manner, we can get it out before. So can this be an agenda item?
It can, but at this point, it's probably far more efficient to address it directly with Dr. McFlurry.
Other suggestions for future agenda items? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item 15, closed session. The board will now convene in closed session pursuant to government code
Apologies,
section.
this is the moderator. I thought you were asking for in the room only for the last agenda item. For members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment for suggestions for future agenda items, you can click that raise hand icon. And if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will now convene in closed session pursuant to government code section 11126 subdivision C3 to deliberate and vote on disciplinary matters. The board will also convene in closed session pursuant to government code section 11126 subdivision A1 for discussion and to deliberate on the performance evaluation of the executive officer. Can I have a motion to retire to closed session and not reconvene in open session? The meeting will adjourn at the completion of the closed session and a second.
John Deerking will so move.
Thank you.
Abraham Hill will second.
Is there any public comment in the room? All right, everyone's leaving, so no. Is there any public comment online?
This is the moderator. If any members of the on WebEx would like to make a public comment, you can click that raise hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device.
I think we have to vote on this.
All right, and I see no requests for public comment on WebEx.
I'm sorry, was there any online? No, thank you.
There were no.
Shall we take a roll call vote? Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Ms. Guzman? Yes. Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That is all 6 of us.